Hey guys, welcome back. It's Ripe again, back with more Entitled People stories. In this video, the police scammed me and legally stole/seized my car, but I am 100% innocent. Here is what happened. And the first one starts like this. I am a single mom of a 4-year-old son, doing my best to get any type of work that can pay the bills. At night, I'm taking courses to study and become a nurse. My hope is that upon finishing, I can get a stable job here in East Asia as a nurse, or even move to America where I have other family and can work as a nurse there. The single most important physical item in my life is my car. I rely on it to be able to get to different jobs, pick up my son from daycare, and make it to my classes at night. If I was forced to only use buses and trains, I would never be able to get everything done that I need to. Things would work out fine if it wasn't for this one corrupt cop that was well known in my neighborhood. I don't want to say what his name is because I'm worried doing so would just cause more issues for me, so I'm just gonna call him Officer X. So Officer X loves to target my neighborhood since it's mainly made up of very poor people who are the most vulnerable. None of us would be able to hire a lawyer or have enough free time to fight the system. He is known to use civil forfeiture laws to his advantage. For those that might not know, it means that basically the police can take property if they claim it was used as part of a crime. It's heavily abused where I live and gets to the point that a corrupt cop like him can just take anything he wants. And by the way, Ripe Stars, I'm curious, I think civil forfeiture also exists in Western countries like the United States, and I'm curious, have you ever had any run-ins with this kind of law? I'm curious, let me know in the comments. Although I do believe I have seen some news articles about this mentioning civil forfeiture and how some people are upset about it. Anyway, I was driving home from work about 2 blocks away from my house when I get pulled over by Officer X. I was not speeding or anything wrong, so I didn't know what he was trying to do. He told me to get out of the car and started searching it. He pulled out a small thing that could have been anything. To me, it looked a little bit like an apple seed, and it was clear that he planted it down and picked it up. Officer X declared that it could be drugs, and my car was now involved in a potential crime. Me? Wait, that is not drugs. Officer X, don't make this more difficult or I will take you in for selling and driving while doing drugs. I knew exactly what he was doing, and I did not have a choice but to shut up and let him do what he wanted unless I was prepared to get arrested. I knew the way that things worked around here. It was such a small amount that while I was not going to get in actual trouble for drugs or anything, he could easily have me arrested claiming that I was acting high while driving. They would take his word over mine, and I'd be stuck in jail for months waiting to just see a judge. My car was now officially seized by him, and I was forced to walk the rest of the way home. I was panicked as I didn't know what I was going to do without a car. I called everybody I knew that could try to watch my son so I could avoid the trip to the childcare center and have a little more time to get from work to school. I was also trying to get my car back through legal channels. I don't know if Officer X heard about it or if it was just a corrupt system, but I kept facing roadblocks. Being told that lawyers were expensive and the only way I could get the car back was to take things to court and win. I was being pressured to settle outside of court, which meant that I would have to admit that I was guilty of having drugs in my car and pay a huge fine. Only then would they begin to process giving me back my car, which would take up to a year. I assume that the fine is where Officer X gets a kickback from. For some, a fine and admitting guilt would be worth it to get a car back. I did not have money for the fine though, and I did not want a reputation of being guilty for drugs or something. This could cause the government to even take my son away if they saw me as an addict. Not to mention the shame on my reputation that I'd carry around forever. I lost one of my jobs since I couldn't get there early enough without having a car, and my son was being bounced from friend to friend in order to be watched, which made me feel guilty. I started skipping my classes and stopped studying to try and make my life work in the moment. I heard about a free lawyer I could speak to and figured that it couldn't hurt at this point. He was busy and I had to wait all day just for a few moments of his time. He told me that I was not alone and many cops did this kind of thing in poor areas in order to seize property and get a kickback from the fines. In fact, he was putting together a list of people that could maybe work together instead of trying to all fight on their own. I met with these people who all had similar stories to mine. Mostly single mothers or fathers living in poor areas too, some even from my own neighborhood, and having Officer X pulling the exact same stunt as he did with me. Together we were each able to pool together a campaign and contact media and the police station to report what was going on. We were gonna get paid attention to no matter what. Having this group also helped with other things, as we would help take turns with some childcare and build a little community. We protested until newspapers started to print our story and the police had no choice but to listen to what we said. A class action lawsuit was filed against a couple of different officers, including Officer X, for misconduct, and we demanded that an outside party looks at this evidence that he had found. On each and every occasion of it, there was no actual drugs. We were being profiled and taken advantage of by being poor, and while normally the government would try and brush things aside, they could not due to the media attention. They admitted to a few cops being corrupt and they had lost their positions. We were thankful for the lawyer who was willing to work for free in order to help us through the entire thing. He even stayed after to make sure that we all got our property returned to us. It was a victory, but it wasn't gonna change the fact that the system here is extremely broken. For every Officer X that gets caught and fired, 2 more are getting away with doing this kind of thing. I was able with my car to get another job and start making money again and getting my life back in order again. I had to give up that semester of nursing though, during all of the crazy stuff, but plan on retaking it and getting good grades again. By the way, due to the media coverage still being fresh, my neighborhood does not have a corrupt cop wandering around currently. There's no guarantee how long that will actually last though. I want the government to stop allowing this corrupt behavior, but I know I'm not in a position to do anything about it. Perhaps when I become a nurse and have more money, I can try and help more, but for now I can only do what I can to survive and get from one day to the next. My innocence means a lot to me, and I know that I have better opportunities now than if I was forced to plead guilty or something and fall victim to the flawed system of our government here. And yeah, Ripe Stars, I'm curious where you are from. Do you also have corrupt police officers? And if so, have you ever had any run-ins with them? I would love to hear your story in the comments. And if you haven't already, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because we are very close to reaching 121,000 subscribers. The next one is titled, How do I, 24 female, tell my host mom about her son's, 17 male, weird behavior? I feel like she won't believe me and I don't know what to do. I never thought this would happen. I cannot sleep tonight because of how helpless I feel in this situation. So first things first, I'm an au pair. I started at 19, went to Australia and took care of 2 little girls and loved it. After a year, I came back home and went to college, but I decided that I wanted to travel again because I'm interested in teaching English abroad one day. I met a really great family on an accredited website that I went to last time for my au pair match, and met a German family. They really liked me and I really liked them and the area, and I've always wanted to go to Germany, so after about 3 months of talking and making sure there was no other family I want to go with more, we went through with it. Now I am in Germany and I've been here for 2 months. They got 3 children, all boys, a 1-year-old who's the cutest thing on earth, a 14-year-old who's friendly and sweet, and a 17-year-old who I don't really provide much care for. He kept to himself a lot and didn't talk much with me, which I didn't mind because I'm mainly there for the 2 younger ones. However, some weird things started happening. I began to notice that he started staring at me a lot whenever we were alone or even at family dinners. So basically he walks up to me at times and it sounds like he's asking me questions in German, but I cannot understand him. The oldest boys can speak English. When I tell him I don't understand him, he just walks away. I asked his brother once what he asked and he said it was something bad. And he's told his brother to stop, but he won't listen. Then, over the past 2 weeks, he has made accidental contact with me. So sometimes he will brush up against me even when there's enough room for us to not bump into each other. 1 or 2 times when this happened, I felt something on my waist, like his hand or something, but I thought maybe it was an accident. Now that they are out of school, we are alone at the house during the day while the parents work, and sometimes when I'm playing with the baby, he will come and play with the baby too, but he'll be very close to me, like to the point where I've no personal space. I've had to tell him a few times to give me space, and his younger brother has even said the same thing. Still, for some reason, I thought maybe he was just shy before and was starting to get comfortable with me. I did not want to jump to conclusions or label him as anything, so most of this I've let go. I really like hanging out with the baby and playing board games and stuff with the 14-year-old. He is a funny, nice kid, but the bad thing that really happened was yesterday. So the family went for a walk and I stayed behind because I had bad cramps. The oldest boy also said he didn't feel like walking, so he stayed behind too. We were there alone, and after they had left, I tried to go to my room, but he blocked me. I kept asking him to move, but he kept blocking me. The look on his face, like he thought it was funny, scared me. He would not speak English with me when I kept asking him why he was doing this, and at this point I felt scared and went to walk the other way. I was gonna hide in a bathroom until the others came back. However, then he grabbed my arm and forced my body against his. I don't know if it was a forced hug or what, but I tried to pull away. He reacted by tightening his grip, so I just froze. He let me go after a few seconds and just left the room. When the family came back, I went into my room for the night because I felt like I would just start crying in front of them. I don't know what I should do. I feel ashamed that I couldn't fight him off and that I'm literally being harassed by a boy so much younger than me. I'm scared to tell the host parents because I can tell they love their son a lot, and at the end of the day, I'm just a random girl that I've only known for 2 months. I'm torn because I love the younger two so much already and I wanted to have a good time in Germany, but this boy's acting so weird. I don't know why he went from basically ignoring me to doing this. I know that despite all of this, I should probably try to talk to the host parents, probably my host mom, as I'm more comfortable sharing this with her. However, I just don't know how to bring that up, how to basically tell her that her son did something really weird to me. And ripe stars, let's face it, that the son is an absolute creep and weirdo. There's no way to excuse this behavior. Anyway, I never thought I would have to do this or be in a situation like this, and I need some help. And yeah, ripe stars, let me know what you think about this absolutely awful, sad story. And honestly, I feel so bad for this young woman that this crap happened to her. However, let me know what you think in the comments. Update to the story. So yesterday was my day off, and after reading through everyone's advice and everything, I contacted my agency that morning. I made sure to first get out of the house so no one would overhear me and to get away from the older boys. The younger boy, the 14-year-old, asked me if he could go with me. I was going to the library and I didn't mind taking him, even though technically he could go by himself. I see older children walking around alone a lot in Germany, but he specifically kept asking to go with me, and like I said before, he's a really good kid to be around, so I didn't mind. I was planning to go to a closed-off area and make my phone calls while he went around looking for books. While we were walking to the library, I could tell he wanted to say something. After a while, I asked if there was anything wrong, and after a bit of a pause, he asked me nervously if I was okay and if anything happened yesterday. He said he was wondering why he didn't see me at all anymore after they came back home. I did not say anything at first because I didn't want to tell him inappropriate information. I told him I just had bad cramps, which was true, and wanted to sleep. However, he is a smart kid, and I think then he knew because he asked if it was because of his older brother. When I didn't say anything, I was so caught off guard by his questions, he asked if I was leaving. He honestly looked so sad. He said he was sorry and that he hoped I don't have a bad impression of Germany now. I almost cried because of how depressed he sounded. I told him not to worry about it and that it had nothing to do with Germany or him or the baby and that I'd be okay. So finally, I contacted my agency when we arrived at the library. I was so nervous that I was shaking when I made the call, but they were amazing and took everything I was saying seriously. I just told them that the oldest kid was making me feel unsafe and in vague terms what happened without going into too much detail. They understood thankfully what I meant and told me that they would work on replacing me if that's what I wanted. They also said that they would reach out to the family to let them know of what was happening and some of my concern with their son. I then called my mom. Being a mother, after I told her everything that had happened, she yelled at me a little, not in an abusive way but for not telling her sooner, and told me very sternly that I was not going back to that house tonight. Even being an adult, I don't argue with my mom when she uses that type of tone. She sounded so frantic and sent me money to stay at a hotel for a while until they found me a new place, even though she really just wanted me to come home. Honestly, I felt a lot better after talking to her. After a while, the younger boy came back over and told me very plainly, "I'm going to tell Mom." He would not listen to me when I told him not to, or not to put himself in that situation. I can handle it. However, he seemed angry and he tried to reassure me that his parents would listen and that they know that the older brother causes trouble sometimes. They had another girl a few years back that left because of him, and well, everyone thought maybe since he had grown up and changed it would be different. So then I stayed at the library while he went home and I just waited. I did not know what was gonna happen. I already had a hotel booked by then and I knew I would probably need to go back to get my stuff. About an hour and a half later, I left the library. Since the parents were at home today, I felt somewhat safe going back to get my stuff. Before I got back though, I received a call. It was from my host mom. When I answered, she was very frantic. She asked me if I was okay and where I was. When I got to the house, the parents were in somewhat of an argument. I did not understand all of it because they went between German and English, but I heard some words like not again and ruining. In short, the mother pulled me aside. She said that she was not aware that the oldest son was still like this and she begged me not to leave. She told me that she wanted her two youngest sons to have a healthy attachment to their caregivers and that it was very hard for them to do this with the oldest. She was actually crying during all of this and told me she does not know why he acts like that, but she did not raise him like that. And that while she loved her son, she was not gonna tolerate that behavior anymore. She said that once he turns 18 next week, I had no idea his birthday was next week, he will have to go live with his uncle and cousin in the Netherlands for the sake of everyone in the house. She told me the parents, discussed it a bit when the first incident happened, but since he seemed to act better, they dropped it at the time. When I asked where he was, she said that he left quickly when his brother came home, saying he was going to a friend's house. He probably will not be back, and she said that even if he does, she will not let him in and will tell him to go to his aunt, who lives not that far, until he can go to the Netherlands. She actually looked very sincere and stern when she said this, and even though the father looked like he was in shock, he agreed with what she said. I didn't know how to respond to them. It was not the reaction I was expecting, but I wanted to be honest. I told her that I was going to stay at a hotel for a while and that she'll probably hear from the agency. I told her that I love the two younger boys, but I might not be back. She said she understood but would appreciate it if I at least thought about it for a day or two. Before I left, I hugged the baby and the 14-year-old goodbye. So that is what happened. I'm safe in the hotel now. I didn't at all expect that reaction from them. I felt almost sick with worry when I wrote my first post. Even though the oldest boy probably won't be back and will eventually be forced to leave, I still feel the effects of what happened lingering. I still feel vulnerable and overwhelmed when I even think about what happened. I feel so bad for the younger kids though. I'm not sure if I should go back or not. She told me to think about it. I will give it some time and see what my agency says first about other placements. I just wanted to thank everyone for helping me through something really difficult. I'm safe now in this hotel and I'm not going to rush back into any situation without thinking over my options and asking for my mom's opinion. A commenter said, as a German, this post infuriates me. Number 1, therapy is free here. It sounds like the parents did absolutely nothing when this happened for the first time. They just hoped and thought their son got better. Number 2, the fact that they just want to get rid of their son by pushing him onto someone else instead of wanting him to feel actual consequences like going to the police with OP is also infuriating. German police is not perfect, but my own experiences with them have been genuinely good and I want to encourage OP to go to the police. Number 3, the parents are trying to subject OP to stay in a house where she was assaulted. That alone is so utterly tone deaf that it's hard to believe. Number 4, sorry Netherlands. And yeah, Ripe Stars, honestly, if I would be OP, I would also not go back to that house. It's not like the parents are necessarily bad people or something, but the way they handled the situation is absolutely not okay. As the commenter said, they are just pushing the consequences on someone else, or rather taking responsibility for their son. And also, if I would be in OP's shoes, I would actually be concerned about the crazy creepy boy returning to the house and doing who knows what if I would still be working there. So in short, I would also not return to that place, even though I'm sure the younger boys were lovely. And now let's move on to the next story. It starts like this. The next one is an Am I the Douchebag story. So Tim and I met in an English literature class of our junior year of college and we've been together the 10 years since. While he ended up going into IT, I stayed in the liberal arts track and ended up doing non-profit work after college when I realized I didn't actually want to be a school teacher. Just to say that we always assumed he would out-earn me by a considerable margin, though when he made more I always insisted we split things evenly to avoid potential resentment down the road. I've had sort of a non-linear career path, but ended up switching to the corporate world. To make a long story short, my liberal arts degree and time doing non-profit work gave me a lot of skills that enable me to really excel professionally in some niche areas. I recently started a new job as a consultant, making way more than I'd ever anticipated. When I got the offer, I told Tim that the pay was amazing, but he did not ask about the actual amount and I didn't want to be braggy about it, especially since I was fairly sure it was above his current income. Well, we just put in an application for a new place, and in the process of having to submit our pay stubs, it's become obvious that I make roughly 30% more than he does now. I expected him to think that was cool since he's a feminist and has always been super supportive of my career. But instead, he has started to make increasingly harsh jabs about how I cheated the system to get where I am, that no English literature major makes more than a cybersecurity professional without cheating somehow. His major point is that I got my first job out of nepotism, which set me up to trample more qualified people who did not have the same advantages. It's true that I got my first post-college job after being referred by a sorority sister, but it was for non-profit work making $22,000 per year, not exactly at somebody's daddy's firm. He also points out that at my first corporate job I snagged a big promotion after volunteering to take on starting up the company's diversity, equity and inclusion program. And I will admit that were I a white man, it's highly unlikely I would have been able to be the face of the eventually high-profile diversity program. Tim also noted that I was awarded a small college scholarship for being a promising female writer when no such scholarship existed for males. But all that said, I still don't feel like I cheated the system, and it makes me angry to listen to him joke about it, especially since I grew up blue collar and worked full-time while going to school full-time to afford my degree. I reached a breaking point yesterday when he made a crack about how the new and first woman on his team is an obvious diversity hire. I told him that his jokes about women cheating the system to get ahead are not funny, or guy talk ribbing as he says. They make him sound like an insecure little boy. He told me I was being a naive Karen, and we have not really talked since yesterday. Did I go too far? And yeah, Ripe Stars, let me know in the comments what you think about this. But honestly, personally for me, this is a super weird relationship. If my girlfriend would make more money than me, and to be honest at the moment she's on a good path because she actually has several YouTube channels and I only have one, I would be super happy and proud of her. But instead it looks like this person here is super insecure and really uncomfortable with his wife making more money than him. And funnily enough, I have seen the exact similar situation with a person in my family, and it really seems like something that a lot of guys are not comfortable with for some reason. And certainly that guy in the story is not a feminist if he acts like this. Anyway, let me know what you think about this. Comment number 1, not the a-hole. He is not much of a feminist if he thinks you got one of your jobs just because you're a woman. He is an insecure little boy like you said. Edit it out, or a scholarship, so people replying can stop thinking I didn't know she got the scholarship because she happened to be a woman, even though getting a scholarship like that requires skilled writing from a woman. Comment number 2, not the a-hole, but you all have some serious problems. I cannot imagine being with someone for 10 years and not telling them how much money I make. Even if you split your finances and have separate accounts, it's important to know how much money you're bringing in. It sounds to me like you guys have a real problem with communication that needs to be fixed if you intend to stay with him. I wouldn't, but that's just me. I cannot imagine my husband being jealous and accusatory if I made more than him. He would be happy for me and for us. And yeah guys, I feel the same. Shouldn't you be like on the same team and, as I said, be like proud of your partner if he or she makes more money than you? This shouldn't be a competition about who makes more money. This is just childish. Anyway, the next one is titled, Yes, I Will Leave Your Property. Several years ago, I worked as a tool guy. For those who don't know, mechanics buy all their own tools, shops provide very little. They are also incredibly busy people, so I would drive shop to shop with a big truck full of tools to sell, fix, order tools, and help find solutions to things they were coming across. Plenty of mechanics spent as much on tools as students spent on college. This was a difficult job as my customers were a very rough bunch, but you had to have thick skin to do this job, and those that didn't would not last long at all. I was running one of the most established routes in the area, to the point where mechanics from other territories would travel to me due to my knowledge, reliability and inventory. I was well known in the local automotive community and I pampered my customers. The issue with pampering your customers is that some of them grow used to it and don't realize how good they have it. Most everyone was a delinquent at some point in their life, but they would often mature enough to be tolerable as they get older. Not all of them though. One guy I saw had an unbelievable temper. He would regularly talk down to me, demand everything from me, zero tolerance, and would even complain about the free candy I would have on the truck for everyone. One day I showed up and he asked, "Hey, do you remember that time I told you my jump pack was acting up?" I don't, sorry, what's wrong with it? Well, F me sideways. He did not like the fact that I didn't remember a conversation from 4 months ago. He flipped out and he started complaining and going on a tirade. I don't remember what he said, but only half was in English, so you know that he was pissed. He ended up throwing a ratchet at me and yelled, "Just fix my stuff and then get the F out of my property." Finally, an out. I picked up his ratchet and rebuilt it, made a repair order for his jump pack, left everything nice and neat on his unbelievably messy toolbox and never stepped foot on his property again. My boss asked me why and I told him he never argued with me about it. I work 12 to 14-hour days, I was not gonna put up with that crap and he agreed with me. From then on he had to go out of his way to get everything he needed and it was likely a lot. He even moved his shop to a different area where a less reliable tool guy was. I heard a rumor that he wanted to apologize to me so I would come back, but he never had the stones to do it. And yeah guys, if you cannot get enough of my content, please don't forget to check out my podcast by searching for Ripe Stories on all major podcast platforms such as Spotify, Apple or Google Podcasts. Furthermore, you can find bonus content by going to patreon.com/ripeyoutube or by clicking the join button here on YouTube. For a small monthly fee, you will get access to dozens and dozens of exclusive videos you won't find anywhere else. Thank you so much for watching and I hope to see you again tomorrow.